Hi, I'm Kelly,
I'm Allison.
I'm Leah.
And I'm Kristen.
and this is Fear and Wine. Hi, welcome to Fear and Wine. We are a horror podcast about horror TV shows, movies, and more. And we are covering Lovecraft Country right now. And we are on episode 8. And this one is titled Jig-A-Bobo. So for me, this is probably the scariest episode and the most disturbing episode of the series. I don't know why. There's just some creepy kids in this one that just stuck with me, and I had bad dreams about them after the first time I saw this episode. And we'll jump into it because it is a little long because there's a little bit of history in this one. So we're going to tie some stuff together for you in this episode.
I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah. This is also, I think this might be my favorite. This one and the next one, I think, are probably my two favorites. So because of the creepy kids in this episode, the question for today is, who is the creepiest or scariest kid you've ever seen in a movie? Or if you really couldn't come up with a movie one, in real life, because I actually did think of a real life one. But because I thought my movie one would get taken, I had a backup, but it's a real life one. So whoever wants to start.
Yeah, this.
This is your... Okay, so Allison's is this.
Yep.
This episode we're going to cover. These are her creepiest kids she's ever seen.
That's so funny.
Oh.
It messed me up for a good 3 months.
Oh, man. I'm glad that I'm just going to get to hear about it because...
I'm going to make you look at a picture of the...
Or
you should look
creepy
up a
kids
picture
already
as
upset
we...
you, so...
As we go through it, you might have to Google a picture of these two little girls.
Allison, without any spoilers for the episode, why are you so freaked out by the kids?
The imagery.
Okay. And you're going to make me look at that.
Yeah, you're going to have to
You're going to have to look it up, yeah.
The way they
gonna look it up.
move. And just the fact that they're children in general.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if children in any scary capacity, even if they aren't themselves the scary person, they could be the hero of the movie, it's still creepy. Because I remember when I was little and I would think about little girls like, what's that? The Exorcist?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Exorcist?
Oh, yeah.
What's the one with the TV?
Oh, the
Poltergeist.
Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Poltergeist. I always wondered why are kids allowed to even do movies like that.
Right.
I still
creepy.
wonder.
Yeah.
But,
Oh, can you
listen.
imagine the girl from The Exorcist? Like, I can't imagine letting my child play a role like that. I mean, that one's
Oh, the crucifix
super
part? Yeah, no.
graphic
there's
stuff.
some
Doesn't make
stuff in
sense to
that.
me. So it's just automatically creepy if there's a child in any scary capacity.
And kids are just like, inherently creepy for some reason.
They
I mean,
are.
the thought of child ghosts and like my kids at night there have been times when I've woken up and my kid's standing next to my bed, like asking me something, and it like freaks me the hell out because it's just out of nowhere. They're standing over me and I'm like, what?
Like, can you make
Go back
some
to
noise
bed.
before you come in here?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I remember one time
Have a doorbell on your...
Well, tie
in
a
your
bell to
bedroom.
them so
That'll
you know when
work.
they're moving around.
That'll work. One creepy thing, when my daughter was really small, I think she may have just been having a dream or like sleepwalking sort of thing, but I remember she woke up, she had to have been maybe like 2, and she looked up and she put her arms up, like up into the corner of the room. It looked like she was reaching out to somebody
hell
to like
no.
pick her up, it was so scary. It was so scary. I'm sure it was a dream, but like it freaked me out.
I might have had to give her back at that point. I don't know.
No, that's too much.
Like, you better be doing calisthenics in here for some odd reason.
Yeah,
and not...
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. I'll go then.
Okay.
Because one of mine might be well, I'll only say one of them then, because I don't want to take yours since you have more than one. So I picked Danny Torrance from The Shining. I know that Allison
good
loves
one.
that film. So,
I do like it, actually.
yeah, I remember that from before. And I just, even before everything happens in the Shining house, the fact that he had that little imaginary fan and he talked out of his finger with his mom too, like, Danny is not here anymore.
Yes.
Ew.
I thought of him. Yeah.
Yeah, so he'd
don't like
be it
that.
for me.
For mine, I went, and I thought Kristen was going to take this one, which is why I did have a backup, but I'm just going to do this one. And mine is Damien from the Omen movie.
I thought of him too.
That's a
I did
great
this for
one.
you, Damien.
Yeah, it was just, that kid was like, he took himself way too seriously, first of all. He never smiled, barely spoke. He had zero issues about killing adults or animals. And the thing about him that was so creepy, he wasn't even a bully. He didn't waste time like intimidating anyone or giving warnings or any of that like bully stuff. He had no time for that foolishness. He was just like, if he needs to kill you, you're just finna be dead. There was just
Well,
no.
the Antichrist knows that people are going to come to him. He doesn't have to, seek them out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So that was mine.
kids are creepy no matter what.
Kids are so
Mhm.
creepy. I mean, the one that stuck out to me was if you've seen TheRing, there's the
Yeah.
little boy
Oh,
in The
no.
Ring. I mean, I
A
know
little
there are
boy.
others. Yeah, there's
All I
like
could
a
think of
little.
was
All right, I just think of the little girl. There's a boy in the ring.
Wait, no, I'm not thinking. Wait, is it The Ring that I'm thinking
You
of?
might be.
No. What's the one with Sarah Michelle Gellar?
The Grudge?
The Grudge.
The
That's the
Grudge,
one I'm
yeah.
thinking of.
Yeah.
But also The Ring. Now that we're talking about it, now that we're on the topic of it.
Yeah, throw her
She's
in there
terrific.
too.
But there's one part specifically in that movie where the little boy's face just like pops out and he's making that weird like sound.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
I could not sleep that night after I saw that movie, and I just thought about his little face popping out like when I was just alone, whatever. I did not like that whatsoever. So, I
Yeah.
mean, you have a lot more well-known ones, I guess, in pop culture, like the girl from The Exorcist. Her face is horrifying.
Mhm.
Like in general, she's just scary looking, but something about that little boy really, really freaked me out.
Yes.
That's a good
And I
one.
don't like the body contortion when the little kids are doing all that stuff. That's where it gets really freaky. And we do get some of that in here.
Oof.
So I will go ahead and jump in. This episode's wine pairing is Madman Red Blend by Fulcrum. The 2022 Madman Red wine comes from Sonoma County, California, and is a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Zinfandel, Malbec, Petit Verdot, Syrah, and Merlot. Madman features engaging aromas of black cherry, brown sugar, anise, and cedar, and has ripe flavors of cherry, red licorice, caramel, and warm oak. Madman's bright acidity and fine-grained tannins make this a serious wine that provides immediate enjoyment. This wine pairs well with red meats, like beef and lamb. Enjoy! For more information about us and all of the wines that we feature, visit our website at fearandwine.com, and make sure you follow Fear and Wine wherever you listen to podcasts so that you don't miss a new episode. And if you like us, please leave us a 5-star rating and review. Thanks! So I will give a warning. You've already been warned that there are some creepy kids in here, but this also involves some history. So you're going to hear a very true story that you're probably all familiar with as we go through this. But when we come to it, you'll know if it's something you don't want to listen to, just skip ahead a few minutes because I'll introduce it. Okay, so episode 8 begins on a very hot day in the city of Chicago. And it fades into the scene of a large group of Black people, several hundred of them, just dressed up in suits and dresses. And they're walking around the streets of Chicago headed to a building. And the Bananarama song Cruel Summer is playing in the background. And yes, that song came out in 1983.
A jam.
And on this date we're on right now is in 1955, but the song really is appropriate for what this scene is trying to convey, just how hot it is and miserable it is outside. And so all of these people, these hundreds of people, are trying to get into a church, and they have cops directing traffic and directing the crowd, just trying to make sure, keep everyone out of the streets and keep everyone safe, because there's just so many people trying to get into this event. And the camera zooms in, and in the middle of this huge crowd of people, we see Dee, Hippolyta's daughter, and she has this distressed and upset look on her face. The camera cuts, and we see people walking out of the back door of this church, and they're crying and they're upset, and you see some people getting physically ill and throwing up. And many of the people are dressed in black, and so we will soon learn that we are at a funeral. Outside in front of this building, near the street, we see Diana again, and she seems a little zoned out, still upset, and she's standing in front of these 3 Nation of Islam brothers who are preaching, and they are yelling about how white people are harming and killing our kids, and this has to stop. And then a quick look at Diana's face again, and then it cuts to another area among the crowd in front of the church, and there's a Black reverend, and he's standing next to a rabbi, and he's speaking into a television camera, and he's being interviewed. And the reverend says, "We are all angry over Emmett Till's murder, but we must organize and fight using the law." So this is how we find out that we are at the funeral of Emmett Till.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the reason we keep focusing on Diana's face in this crowd is, if you recall back in episode 3 at Letty's house, where during the haunting in the mansion, and Kristen covered that episode, she mentioned that there was a group of kids upstairs in the attic playing with the Ouija board. And then I mentioned that one of the kids was Diana's friend that she called Bobo. And he asked the board, am I going to have fun on my trip that's coming up?
Oh my gosh, I
And
wondered if that was gonna come back.
yep. And the board
Yep.
said no. Bobo is the nickname for Emmett Till. And in this story, Emmett Till is Diana's best friend. So we have seen him in a few other episodes. So, just a quick little history moment. For most of you listening, you probably know who Emmett Till is and the story of his very, very gruesome murder. But if not, I'll give you a quick overview of it. And it is 1955, the same year we're in right now in this TV show. 14-year-old Emmett Till was visiting his relatives in Mississippi, and he had been looking forward to this trip for a while. He was so excited to go. And one day, Emmett and his cousins went to a small local store owned by the Bryant family to buy some candy or snacks or something. And as the story goes, the white woman behind the counter, whose name was Carolyn Bryant, she was working at the store that day. And Emmett either whistled at her, smiled at her, or said something flirty to her, or possible that he just spoke to her in a more familiar and non-formal way than a Black person should speak to a white person at this time in Mississippi. However, there were no witnesses in the store at that moment, so it's just Caroline's story that we have to go off of. And Carolyn was very offended and felt that she had somehow been sexually harassed or violated in some way by Emmett. The way she tells it, it made it seem like this was tantamount to rape, what had happened to her. So Carolyn told her husband what Emmett had done to her, and one night, a few days later, her husband, Roy Bryant, and her brother-in-law, J.W. Milam, abducted Emmett from his bed at his aunt and uncle's home after they demanded that his aunt and uncle hand Emmett over to them, and they took him away in a car. They made Emmett carry a 75-pound cotton gin fan to the bank of the Tallahatchie River and then ordered him to take off his clothes. The two men then proceeded to beat Emmett Till nearly to death. They then gouged out his eyes, shot him in the head, and then tied the cotton gin fan to his body with barbed wire and dumped his body into the river. 3 days later, Emmett's body was recovered from the river, but it was so disfigured that his uncle was only able to identify him by the ring that Emmett was wearing with his initials on it. Local authorities in Mississippi wanted to bury the body quickly, but Emmett's mother stood on business and said, "No, you will send my child back to me in Chicago." And so they did. After seeing the condition her son's body was in, Emmett's mother decided to have an open casket funeral so that the world could see what these men had done to her son. Jet Magazine, a very famous African American magazine at the time, published the photos of Emmett's corpse, and that's how the mainstream media picked up the story. And that's why it's a story that we still know today, because I'm sure there are many other stories like this that we will never know about. And so that takes us to the funeral that we are at now on the show.
That's such a horrifying story, that poor little boy.
Oh, yes.
And I
Mhm.
remember seeing an interview with his mom, and she seemed like the sweetest lady. And I mean, as awful as it is to see those images, I'm so
Mhm.
happy that she was strong enough to
Mhm.
do that so people could see like how awful those men were to
This
her
was,
to her
yeah.
son. Yeah.
And so, and then it wasn't just stories, because like I said, I'm sure there were
Right.
other stories similar to this
Absolutely.
happening at the time. So, real quick to wrap up Emmett's story, less than 2 weeks after Emmett's funeral, the two white men, Milam and Bryant, after having been identified by Emmett's uncle, went on trial for the murder. This was a segregated courthouse in Summer, Mississippi. So, as you might have guessed, the all-white jury that they had deliberated for less than an hour and found the two men not guilty, saying that the state could not prove without a doubt that that body that they found was in fact Emmett Till's. The state also did not indict the two men on the separate charge of kidnapping. Many years later, around 2017, in a book by Tim Tyson called The Blood of Emmett Till, Carolyn Bryant, now Carolyn Bryant Donham, recanted her testimony and admitted that Emmett Till never touched her or harassed her.
Wow, that's
She said, quote, "Nothing that boy did could ever justify what happened to him." Carolyn Bryant died in 2023 at the age of 88. And I'm sure you all remember when that was talked about on social media. I know I popped some champagne that day that she died. So many of us were happy. But
rightfully so.
it took her that many years to just say the right
To
thing,
be honest, yeah.
to just be honest and say nothing happened.
Clear his name, yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
And then in March 2022, President Joe Biden signed the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act into law, making lynching a federal hate crime. Now back to the story. So now Diana is at her friend's funeral, and she is there with Ruby. And Diana asks Ruby, "What is that smell?" And Ruby just looks at her sadly and says, "Well, today is probably one of the hottest days of the year, so..." and then Diana starts crying, realizing that she is smelling her best friend's body. Behind Dee and Ruby are Letty, Montrose, and Tick, and Ruby turns to them and says maybe this wasn't a good idea to bring Dee. Dee starts to separate from the group and walks away from them towards the building, and then through a clearing in the crowd, she sees the big photo of Bobo that they have outside the door. So now Dee is in her own little world, and Letty and Tick are whispering and arguing about how Hippolyta has not returned from her adventure yet, and it's been over a week. And maybe they should tell Dee that there's a good chance her mom might not be coming back home at all. And somehow during all of this group of adults has lost Diana. She was overwhelmed and she just had to get out of there. So the group splits up to try and find her around the city. Diana has gone off somewhere, and we see her looking in a store window, and it has these arcade games and pinball machines and stuff in it. And as she's walking away from that store window, two black girls with ice cream cones come outside of the store, and they're laughing and giggling. Diana turns around to look at them, and she is pissed because she can't understand what there could possibly be to be happy about today. One of the girls waves at her and then turns back around to talk to her friend. And so Dee picks up some rocks that she finds on the street and starts throwing them at the girls and yelling until they run away. The girls are now gone, so Dee continues her walk when a police car with its sirens pulls up on her. Two white officers get out of their car and start walking behind her and asking her if she is Diana Freeman. Diana ignores them at first and keeps walking, and they ask again. Diana stops, and one of the officers walks up to her and gets in her face, and we see that this is that same officer from the lodge. We keep seeing him pop up anytime there are cops around. The one that's pissed off at Christina Braithwaite for being in his area unannounced. And he holds up a small comic book and asks her, "Is this yours?" So that's that evidence that was left behind in the when Hippolyta disappeared into that portal. So they have found this after it was underneath the dead cop's body.
Mm-hmm.
So Dee is visibly terrified and shaking, and she tells them that it is hers. It's the one she's been writing. And the officers ask her, "Where's your mother? What's her name?" Dee answers their questions as best she can. As the main guy from the lodge is questioning her, the other cop starts drawing chalk asterisks on the ground around where Dee is standing. The officer then asks Dee, "What do you know about magic?" Dee is thoroughly confused now and assumes he's talking about fantasy books. The officer laughs at her, so Dee tries to run, but they catch her and one cop puts her in a chokehold while the other starts putting a spell on her and saying a bunch of stuff in that language of Adam. As he's saying his incantations, Dee sees a bunch of maggots coming to the surface through the concrete at her feet, and she starts to panic. The cop then spits on his hand and wipes it on Dee's forehead, and it's really gross.
Ew.
It's disgusting.
Very gross.
It's like extra thick for some reason. Too.
Yeah, I don't know why it was all mucusy. I think regular spit would have done the job, but yeah. He continues to chant, and once the spell is done, they drop Dee on the ground and leave. Dee wipes her head and runs off as soon as they're gone. Back at Letty's house, Letty walks through her front door and calls out for Dee, hoping that she went there. Dee is not there, but guess who is? Letty finds there waiting for her, sitting in the front room like she has an appointment, our old friend Gia from Korea.
Oh, she's back.
Yeah, she has made a comeback. Letty asks the woman if she is looking for a room, and she tells Letty, "No, I'm looking for Atticus." We then cut to Tick, speed walking through a cemetery and into a large mausoleum where he finds Christina there waiting. They're in the Braithwaite family mausoleum. Tick tells Christina that he wants her to teach him how to cast a spell. He says he wants to know because it's his birthright. And Christina laughs at this and tells Tick that he doesn't have enough whiteness in him for that amount of entitlement, which I thought was a funny little line. Christina, because she seems to know everything at all times, tells Tick congrats on getting Titus's pages. People usually die trying to get them. Tick tells her that Horatio's pages are still out there, and he doesn't have the orrery, but he does have the key to it that she wants. So Christina decides to tell him what he needs to properly cast a spell. So she's going to teach him a little bit. She says it's not just about saying the words, it's about putting the proper intention behind them. She shows him how to make the protection symbol and tells him to place it around the location where you're going to cast the spell and use it with his blood that's preferable. So now that the spell lesson is over, Tick hands her the key and she starts to leave. And then Tick says, "What's going to happen on the autumnal equinox?" And this makes her stop dead in her tracks and her face looks shocked. But she turns around and tells him she's going to achieve what no one else in the order ever could: immortality.
That's my birthday, by the way.
The autumnal equinox?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, my daughter's is the
The
day
day
after
after?
yours.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Back at her apartment, Dee arrives home and her Uncle Montrose is there waiting for her. He starts fussing at her and asking where the hell she's been, and Diana yells at him that you are not my father and I don't have to answer to you. My father is dead and my mom probably is too. She yells at Montrose to tell her where her mom is, and all Montrose can tell her is that she's on a guide trip. And she knows that he's lying because what happened to Bobo is national news and she would have come back for that. Diana goes into the bathroom and shuts the door and washes her face while Montrose is trying to console her through the door. Dee doesn't want to hear it, so she turns up the radio in the bathroom. Under the radio, on a shelf in the bathroom, Dee sees the cover of the book Uncle Tom's Cabin, and on the cover is a young white girl and a young black girl, which is the character of Topsy from the story. So, in the story of Uncle Tom's Cabin, Topsy is a young slave girl who's often depicted in old tattered clothes with her hair braided in several pigtails that stick up all over her head. You've probably seen this characterization stereotype of young black girls in it's like imagery in Jim Crow that was used. That was kind of it's bad.
I
Yeah.
think that was one of the gross like slurs they called Gracie in when we watched them. Actually, I think that was
Yeah, they
theme.
called her
Mhm.
Topsy. Yep,
Oh,
that's
I
what that's
remember
from.
that.
Yeah. So now with the radio on and Mantra still talking to her through the door, a song starts to play on the radio that has this knocking sound in it. And the lyrics are like, stop that knocking on my door, let me in. So you keep hearing let me in and then like this knocking sound.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so Dee looks at the book cover again, and that image of Topsy on the cover now looks deranged and evil. So before it was just a girl just standing there, and now she has these like sharp teeth and claws and these red eyes, and she just looks evil.
Here we go.
Mhm. And then all by itself, the book just jumps off the shelf and onto the floor.
Nope.
Yep.
Like that at all.
So Dee is understandably freaked out by this, and she goes out of the bathroom window and down the fire escape just as Montrose decides to come into the bathroom. Montrose picks up the book that has fallen on the floor, and the cover he sees is the normal book cover. So something these cops did to her with their spell is getting in Dee's head and making her hallucinate. We now go to Ruby, and she has walked over to Christina's house where she still has a key. Christina slash William, I guess. And she starts to let herself into the gate when some nosy landscaping guy across the street yells at her and says, "Hey, are you the maid?" Like, I guess like he's a neighborhood watch or something, but I think he's just landscaping. I don't know why he cares. Yeah. And Ruby tells him, "No, I'm not the damn maid." Well, I guess he didn't like her cussing at him. So he walks her across the street and tries to get in her face. And it's like, "What do you say?" Like he's going to like fight a woman. And then that's when William pulls up in his car. And William asks, "Is there a problem?" And the landscape guy says, "Well, no, I guess there's no problem as long as you know who this woman is. With all the mess going on the other side of town, meaning all the thousands of people who showed up for the funeral, I just don't want any of it coming over here is all." So then the nosy man leaves and Ruby is shaken by the confrontation and crying. William puts his arm around her and takes her inside and draws her a bath and takes care of her, and it's a very nice little scene. And then he starts to kiss her, and Ruby remembers that this is really Christina, so she kind of pulls away. And then she decides that the only way she'd be willing to be intimate with him again is if she also changes and becomes the white lady. So Ruby drinks her potion, but I guess she doesn't take enough of it or something because as they're having sex, she sheds that skin and becomes herself again. Tick arrives now at Letty's house and walks in and sees his two women sitting there waiting for him. Gia is all smiles and Letty is not smiling at all. Back out on the streets of Chicago, Dee is about to board the L train. As she waits on the platform, she gets this creepy, uneasy feeling, and she starts looking around, and that's when she spots these two girls, dressed up like the evil, deranged Topsy from the cover of the book.
No.
Yes, and they come up the stairs. Leah, this is so creepy.
Oh,
Even if you
no,
just
I
have to look up this first scene is the creepiest.
have
They
goosebumps already.
they come up the stairs onto the platform, and they are dancing. They're like
Mhm.
popping and locking, and it's
Crumping.
Just like
crumping,
Kristen wants
yes.
to learn how to do.
Yes, but in the creepiest way. Kristen will not look like this when she's doing it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And so much like the two girls that were outside of the arcade, which maybe had been was the basis of this. One girl is darker skins, one's lighter skin. And those are the two girls she started throwing rocks at. So they kind of have that look. It's not them, but they kind of have that look. But they have these huge overdrawn red lips so that they have these big Joker smiles and they have these tiny razor looking teeth and these long, sharp fingernails like little daggers.
I'm going to look it up.
Mhm.
Yes. And they're contorting their bodies like the Grudge. And it's a lot. So Dee soon realizes that only she can see these two maniacs because she's asking people around them. She's like, do you see them? And this one guy's like, what? Stop touching me. Like, what? And nobody else sees them. And then when they appear and start dancing, and they're dancing to that knocking at my door song. So you'll usually hear this knocking sound just before you see them or right when you see them.
Oh, that's even creepier.
I know.
No, I don't like this.
So Dee gets to running, and she is trying to push her way through the crowd to get away from them, and they're chasing her. But they're also still dancing, so they aren't covering
Makes it
too
worse.
much ground. Right, but they're not covering as much ground as quickly as they could if they didn't have to do all these dance breaks.
Like they were doing back bends and stuff. Like, just
Yeah.
get her. Just if you're
Oh,
gonna
right, I know.
get her. Like, why are we dancing on our way to her? That's what really pisses me off because they didn't need to do all that.
It is. It's kind of like how it follows freaks me out, but at the same time they're walking. Like if you could just put a little pep in your step, you're not gonna catch you that fast. Okay, so back with Tick and Gia and Letty. Tick tells Gia that he knows what she is and that she is a succubus. And Gia says, well, I don't know what all that is, but where I come from, I'm called a kumiho. And she explains about how she is that 9-tailed fox spirit that we talked about in episode 6. And she explains that she has killed 100 men and how the tails work and how she attacks them once they climax. So she's really open and honest about everything that she does. And she's open to any questions they have about it. So Tick starts to get agitated and then asks Gia about her seeing him die. He wants to know when, where, how, and Gia tells him that she doesn't know. So I'm with Tick on this one. He's like, well, why the hell are you here? You flew all the way from Korea to Chicago to tell me nothing? Yeah. So he's like, if you have no answers, why are you here? And that's when Letty figures it all out and she tells him Gia is there because she loves him. Letty gets up and leaves the room. Tick tells Gia that what we had together was not real. He's not dying, so she can leave. Tick chases Letty upstairs and leaves Gia crying. Meanwhile, Letty is upstairs packing up Tick's shit and telling him he can leave with her. And Tick says, listen, I'm going to fix all of this. I'm going to make this right. And he starts going to his little workroom there in the house, and Letty follows him and asks him, what do you mean? What are you going to do? And in true, let's pick the most illogical solution first Tick fashion, he announces that he's going to fix this all by casting a spell. He tells Letty that he met with Christina earlier, and he gave her the orrery key, and then he got a 3-minute YouTube tutorial on spellcasting, so I'm good to go. He's ready. He got all he needs. Letty stops him and is like, bitch, are you crazy? What if Gia is right and you casting the spell is how you die? And Tick's like, well, I made up my mind. I'm going to do this. Tick has all, I wish I had some Tick confidence. I could just start casting spells after watching someone draw a little symbol.
I could do that.
Yeah. At Christina's house, Christina and Ruby are back to being themselves, and Christina is finishing up some business on the phone when Ruby walks in and explains what has been going on today and the whole Emmett Till situation, and asks Christina if she even cares what's going on right now. And Christina's like, I get the feeling you want me to say yes? And Ruby says, I just want to know if you can feel anything at all. Are you sad? Are you heartbroken like the rest of us are? And Ruby explains to Christina how she's angry and tired of all of this, and that the reason she took the potion earlier was because today, of all days, I don't want to be a black woman fucking a white man. Christina hears her out and lets Ruby have her moment, and then just looks at her and says, no, I don't care about Emmett Till. I don't care about Roy Bryant. I don't care about J.W. Milam, who will never see justice for what they did. I don't care that half of this city is on the brink because of it. And I don't think that you really do either. Christina tells Ruby, you took that potion to hide the fact that even on today, of all days, you were a woman who wanted what she wanted. Back out in the Chicago neighborhoods, Dee is running around all paranoid, like just someone on a bad acid trip. Like she is just crazed looking and terrified. And she is trying her best to avoid these terrifying Topsies. She makes it over to Letty's house, and she's looking for Tick. She sees Letty, who's on her way out, and Letty is too wrapped up in her own issues with Tick to notice how distraught and scared Dee is. So as Letty is about to walk down the street to run her errands, Dee sees one of the Topsy twins dancing behind Letty. She tries to warn Letty, but she starts coughing and can't get the words out. And Letty tells her, go inside, get some water, and I'll be back soon. Dee runs away from the girl and sees her mom's car, Woody, off to the side of Letty's house. She opens the door and sees her mom's stuff inside, so now she's adding to the worry about what might have happened to her mom, into this spell-induced trip she's having. So she's just a mess.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the other Topsy twin pops up at her through the car window.
Nope. I'm looking at pictures of them, and I guess they're referenced as Topsy and Bopsy.
Oh,
And
okay.
so
I don't know who
but I'm
Bopsy is from the story, so I've been calling him Topsy.
well, either way, they look very similar. But like,
Mhm.
why do sometimes some of the pictures I'm seeing, like their eyes look kind of normal? I mean, their faces look all
Crazy, yeah.
crazy, but like their eyes look sort of normal. But then other photos, their eyes are like red and they look so scary.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't know. Did you notice an eye change in them, Allison? I don't know. Maybe I
Did
didn't.
I notice an eye?
I'm
I
asking.
was trying not to look at the TV. What do you mean did I notice an eye
I mean, I
change?
can barely look at these gifs. They're like so creepy. Even with the like, you're right, Allison. The dancing makes it worse.
Yeah, I mean, imagine Michael Myers just over here, just heel toeing towards you, and
Like the
you
one
trying to
girl,
get away.
the
It's
one girl does a
crazy.
total back bend, and then they just give those creepy smiles. Like I'm gonna probably skip this episode.
It's a good episode, but I understand. It's a really good one. So after she pops up through the car window, Dee screams and runs, and she finds a bike that someone left in the yard, and she hops on it and takes off. Now, this should help her get some good distance from these freaks because remember, they are still doing dance numbers as they stalk her. It's sundown now, and Tick is going to his dad's apartment when he sees his dad outside sitting on the curb drinking. Montrose tells Tick, I found Dee earlier, but then she ran off again. And so Tick says, did you cheat on my mama? So Tick and his priorities, I tell you what, your little cousin's missing after freaking out at the funeral of her best friend that was brutally murdered. You have a fox spirit lady with 9 tails at your house that flew all the way from Korea to warn you about your death. And then you have stupidly decided tonight's going to be the first night you try a spell because you saw Christina draw a symbol in some dust on a coffin 4 hours ago. But you're right. This is now also the time to confront your father
Right.
about who he may or may not have slept with 10 years ago.
Right.
Let's go ahead and add this to it. Why not?
The man needs to know.
Right, I guess. I think my answer would be like, I don't have time for this right now.
Yeah, like we'll cross that bridge.
Right. So Montrose tells Tick that he had desires during their marriage, but he never acted on them until she was gone. Tick's mom and him just wanted a family. Their relationship wasn't built on romantic love, but it was still love. Tick tells Montrose that Letty is pregnant, but Letty hasn't told him yet. He learned when he went through that same portal Hippolyta went through. Tick went to the future, and then Tick hands Montrose a copy of the book Lovecraft Country by George Freeman. And on the back is a photo of the author. Montrose is a little confused because that's not the picture of his brother, George Freeman, and Tick tells him, that's my son. Tick tells Montrose that he has read the book, and there are a few characters and character details that have changed, but it's their family story. It's what's happening to them right now. He says that according to the book, Christina sacrifices him on the autumnal equinox so that she can become immortal. This will take place in 5 days. Tick knows that casting a spell may kill him, but he has to at least try something to counteract Christina. He wants to live for his son. Letty has gone to a church to pray and ask God for guidance in what to do with all of this magic and monsters and everything that's been happening to them. She prays for protection for all of them, especially Tick and the Till family. Just as she finishes her prayer, Christina comes and sits next to her on the pew. We find out that Letty asked Christina to meet her there. Letty gives her the photo negatives of Titus's pages from the Book of Adam, and in return, she wants Christina to make Atticus invulnerable. Christina tells her no. I won't do that for Atticus, but I will do that for you. Letty agrees and gives her the negatives, and Christina starts to say the spell in the language of Adam over Letty. Letty immediately starts having pain in her abdomen, and she lifts up her shirt, and we see her skin is burning and bubbling. Christina tells her that she has given her the mark of Cain, and it is a brand in the shape of a serpent. It's later that night, and Dee is on her bike still, looking around corners everywhere she goes, and she's hidden off in an alleyway across the street from the police station, and she watches the police for a bit, and as she's watching, we see the 2 Topsy twin girls dancing towards her, behind her in the darker alley. Dee sees the cop that put the spell on her and follows the cop car on her bike just as the twins catch up to her. But she never sees them behind her, so they just miss her. Dee follows these cops all the way back to the lodge and then busts in on them while they're just relaxing and reading the paper. Dee flings open the door and yells, "Is my mom dead?" The main officer, that's that head guy from the lodge, says, "Probably." Dee then asks, "What did you do to me with your spit? What happens if it gets me?" The cop tells her that he can remove the curse, but she will need to do something for him first. He asks her if she knows what an orrery is, and she says, "Of course, I know what that is." And he tells her to bring the orrery from the Winthrop house, and he will stop the curse and save her from whatever is following her. And Diana's response is to spit on him and say, "Fuck you, pig," and then she leaves.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
I know that's right.
So he lets her leave and then comments, "To hell with her. She's dead already anyways." Diana goes outside and gets on her bike, and she sees the dancing girls out there, but now she has no fear. She just hops on her bike, faces them down and screams and rides right up to them and past them as they try to scratch her when she goes by. Back at the apartment, Tick and Montrose have their spell supplies out, and they got the books, some candles, and they're drawing on the floor with blood and making symbols and whatnot. Tick stands in the middle of the symbol as Montrose recites the words for the spell in the language of Adam. As soon as Montrose finishes, absolutely nothing happens. Why? Because they don't know what they're doing, and they shouldn't be doing it. We then cut to a man rolling this huge, heavy-looking wheel thing down a dock. It's too heavy to even lift. And it is a cotton gin fan, just like the one that was tied to Emmett Till.
Mhm.
He rolls it to the end of the dock, where we see Christina waiting with another man standing next to her. And this man asks her, "Have you ever done anything like this before?" And she tells him, "No, it's my first time." The guy seems a little nervous about whatever it is that's about to happen, and he asks her if she's sure, and she tells him, "You have your money, just do what you were paid for." Christina takes a moment and says a quick prayer or spell or something in the language of Adam, and then she turns around to face the two men, and one of them just hauls off and punches her in the face. Then the other guy does it, and now the two men take turns going back and forth, just beating the crap out of her. Reflexively, Christina starts fighting back, which I don't think is the point of this exercise, but it's understandable. And they continue to beat her until she's bloodied and can't move. One of the guys then shoots her twice in the chest, and the two men take some barbed wire and tie Christina with the barbed wire to the cotton gin fan and throw her off the dock into the lake. As the men leave, one of them says to the other, "Why would anyone want to die like that?" So I'm guessing they either don't know about the full story of Emmett Till, or
Right.
if they are, they're not aware of everything that happened
Mhm.
because they just make that comment. And then a few minutes after the men leave, Christina pops back up out of the water, all whole again, and she wanted to feel the pain that Ruby had described to her. So I think Ruby's words did sink in, and she wanted to know, why don't I care, or maybe what did he go through. But we do a quick jump over to Dee, and she is in her parents' garage and has locked all and barred all of the doors and windows except for one, and she is ready for the final showdown with these twins. As she waits, she takes out some pieces of paper and starts drawing the evil Topsy twins over and over and then throwing the drawings on the floor. And that's when the girls arrive. We see a long, nailed, bloody hand and arm reach through the door, and the first girl, pop and lock, dances into the room. She really does. But Dee is ready for her, and she has this metal pipe in her hand. She just starts beating her. While this is happening, the other girl sneaks in. So as Dee is going to town beating the hell out of one of these girls, she's screaming and yelling, and that's when Montrose hears this, and he busts open the door to get to Dee, and we see that Dee is tearing up the place, and she's having a fight with no one. Montrose is able to wrestle her and get the weapon away from her and grab Dee, and he's just holding her. And this stops the twins from attacking. So you'd see from her point again, these twins just pouting like they can't attack anymore because now someone has intervened.
Oh, they're like, damn it.
Yeah, I know. That's really what they're
Yeah,
doing. Like,
they
damn
kind of
it.
like pout and like stomp their feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they can't get past Montrose because he's just holding her and like rocking with her. So over at Letty's, she and Ruby are in her basement darkroom developing some photos, and Letty tells Ruby that she is pregnant. Ruby is very disappointed in Letty for getting knocked up. She says Letty never should have followed Tick to Artem. Letty looks at her confused, so Ruby tells her that she knows all about the magic and how George really died. That's when Letty realizes that the white man Ruby is living with is William. Ruby tells her, well, it's only William some of the time. The rest of the time, it's Christina Braithwaite. Letty tells Ruby that Christina is playing her and using Ruby to spy on them. Ruby tells her she doesn't know about all that, but she does like the magic and how she can become the White Lady whenever she wants. She says Christina is going to teach her some more magic. Suddenly, from upstairs, someone yells to Letty to come up here right now. At the door is damn near the entire police department saying that they have a warrant to search her home, and they are looking for the orrery.
I'm going to need to see a copy of this
Right.
warrant.
Right. So Ruby answers the door, and the officer tells them that they got a tip that known Nation of Islam radicals were in there having a meeting, and they're planning some sort of retaliation for Emmett Till. But as that one shady officer that runs the lodge tries to walk in, he is stopped by that same protection spell force field that stopped Christina. So they're forced to give up for now and leave. But as a little parting gift, the officers open fire on their house and shoot down all of their windows and just everything in the front room. They're just shooting up the place. Everyone is thankfully able to get down onto the floor in time and avoid the bullets, but the shooting goes on for quite a while. And that's when Letty remembers, oh, that's right. I have the mark of Cain now. I should be immortal. So she tests it out. And sure enough, she gets up and the bullets just seem to curve around her and nothing hits her at all.
That's really brave to be like,
To
let's
just
see if
test
this
that.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it left a burn on me, so might as well try that out.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So at this moment, Tick is walking back over to Letty's and he's seeing police cars and sirens go by and he hears gunshots in the distance. So now he starts booking it to the house and he arrives to see the shootout going on and it's in full swing. And he's standing at the end of the rows of cop cars and kind of behind them as they continue to shoot up their home. One cop at the end of the line of cars sees Tick and turns the gun on him and shouts for him to put his hands up. Letty sees this from the window and she screams and panics and runs out of the house to try and save Tick. But of course, she is too far away to jump in front of him in time. And the officer fires off a shot at Tick. So then everything goes into slow motion as the bullet leaves the barrel. And just as the bullet is about a foot away from hitting Tick, the ground opens up right in front of him. And out of the earth pops up one of those protective guard monsters from the beginning of the series. And this one is bigger than most of the other ones we've seen before.
Finally, we got some monsters back.
Yes,
I mean, I know the
monsters are
girls,
back.
the twins are scary, definitely. I like
know.
that, but I was
You love a
waiting-
monster, though.
Yeah, monsters are good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this giant monster faces the cops and then proceeds to just mow them down, stopping to rip apart, stab, slash, bite, and kill each officer. And it's a bloodbath. But in a matter of seconds, every officer is dead. And Tick and Letty take this moment to try and escape and get back into the house. But once the monster kills all the cops, it runs straight for the two of them. And it gets right up to them and screams in their face. And Tick just, as a reflex, sticks out his hand to try and shield them. And then the monster bows his head at Tick and nudges it into his hand like a dog wanting to be pet.
Oh,
I know. And that's how the episode ends.
so he has some power over them.
Mm-hmm. So I think she created those and connected his blood to these. Because remember, they were her guard dogs that she could call on and off. So I think Christina did. She couldn't give him immortality because she needs to use him later, but maybe she helped Letty out with that request.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's where we are. Sorry. I know I ran through that one fast, but.
No, it's okay. I understand why Allison was freaked out by this one because now that I've seen those photos and the way that those girls move, I guess they are actual dancers, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
But like, no, thank you. Just the imagery of it is terrifying. And their faces look so like contorted, just like the exaggerated smiles and the teeth and the long nails. That is so like I feel like I would have been scared even just filming a scene with them, actually. You know what I mean? Ugh.
And that
me
makeup and
chills.
the nails were killing
It
that.
still makes no sense that kids are allowed to do that, but
Whatever.
Of all the creepy kid stuff, like we mentioned Exorcist and like they had kids doing stuff with the devil and poltergeist and all that stuff. I feel like this is very tame for kids to be doing. It's just putting on a costume and dancing.
they don't need to be putting on that costume.
No, I bet a lot of people after the fact, after this show came out, dressed like them for Halloween.
They did. There's a lot of Topsy and Bopsies for Halloween. Yeah.
There.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good one. You can just dance your way down the street while you're trick or treating.
Yeah, but see, I wouldn't want to see that live. There's something about it. Yeah, I couldn't handle that.
No, it's just like jarring the way that they're. Ooh, just looks creepy, and like that they're like smiling, you know, like they're happy about it.
Yes, very scary. Maybe watch like a clip of them. Well, I guess you said you already saw it on
I
YouTube.
saw some gifs, but like
Gifs.
I don't think it hits the same as like if I were to watch it in an episode. I mean, it just looks.
Yeah, you need that knocking
creepy.
music behind them.
Yeah. You need
Do
everything.
I need it? I don't know if I need it.
Well, even for the monster, just watch this episode for the monster.
Okay, I might get
Yeah.
brave, but if I do, it'll definitely be when the sun is up.
Yep, it's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
You guys are so funny.
But that
I've
was
never
that.
laid in bed at night being scared of a movie I saw. I don't.
Really?
I mean,
No?
probably when I was a kid, yes, but I can't remember a movie that made me scared enough
Oh,
that I
wow.
No.
laid in bed and thought about it.
I think there's a few, like this one was, I don't know if I thought about it. They really did enter my dream that night, though.
Wow.
Those two
Oh.
girls
Oh,
dancing.
that's even worse.
Ooh.
But
That reminds
I,
me, last night somebody chased me from outside to my home, and like I just locked my door at the last second before. It was like a horror movie in my dream last night. So
mm-hmm.
Oh, for a second, I
You just
thought you
made me
meant for
remember.
real. I was like,
I know. Me
Oh,
too. I was like,
sorry.
wait a second. We're just casually saying this.
Right. It's like, oh,
Sorry,
I
it was my dream.
remember I was almost
She
attacked.
triggered it.
That's crazy. Listen, there was a time I was home alone one summer. I was probably like, I don't know, maybe 16, and I
Mhm.
was scrolling through the channels. I'm getting ready to go to bed. It was like the middle of the night, and I flipped past MTV, and there's the Thriller video, and Michael Jackson is halfway
Mhm.
through transforming into the werewolf creature. You know, like when his eyes are yellow, and I had to sleep with the light on.
Yep.
Just
That'll do it to me every time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
Terrifying.
loved it. I was learning the dance. Like that was all I was focused on. So that's so funny.
Yeah,
Oh,
just that
that's
part.
interesting that that it doesn't.
There was a time I saw a cover of a DVD in Walmart, and I slept with my light on for 3 days. And I
a
wish I could
picture?
go. It was
Oh.
All
called
it takes is some imagery.
It was called The
Really?
Fair-Haired Child, if you would like to look it up.
What is
I will
it
not.
called?
I think it was The Fair-Haired Child,
Okay.
and just the cover was like this creature with like a exaggerated like open mouth and like
Mhm.
bald, I think, and like really
It's a
fair.
2006 film. Oh, I see it. Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Yeah, that scared me in Walmart, and I'm not kidding you. I slept with my light on for 3 days. I
That is
might
so
sleep with my
funny.
light on now that I'm thinking about it,
Oh my
honestly.
God, that's hysterical. This makes me laugh and giggle. So that's great.
It's okay.
Oh.
Them season 2 had me sleeping with my
Yeah.
light on for
Did
months.
it?
So whenever we get to that, be ready.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, that was rough. Well, it's funny because like Kristen's nightmare she had about just getting in her house in time, so that happened to me in real life. But it's funny. It's not as dire, but I know that panic feeling in real life where you can't get your keys because I did
Oh
not
my
make it.
God.
I didn't make it.
What do you
I tried so
mean?
hard. Okay, so
Yeah.
so in college there is this game that the theater and dance department played every year called Assassins. We also played it in high school. All
I've
the
heard
seniors
of it.
did.
Okay.
Okay. So, but in college, we took it to another level. I don't know if it's a Midwest thing because I've never heard of anybody else playing it on the level we would. So
Mhm.
in high school, all the seniors played it. And I remember our senior year, Pete got shot right away in a drive-by. It was hilarious. Like day one, he was out of the game. I was cracking up. So in college, we're playing, and I had my partner and I were doing so well, and we had like killed a couple people. And I don't mean kill, by the way. It's a water game. It's a game you play with
Yeah,
water
yeah, yeah.
guns. Okay,
Yeah.
just so nobody thinks I'm like some deranged killer out there. So we were doing really well, and then I was coming home from practice off campus. I was in a community theater production, and my partner called me. He's like, "Kelly, I've just been killed. Be careful. Where are you? Are you at home?" I was like, "I'm not at home." I told him I was coming home. He's like, "I don't know what you need to do. Stay in your car, sleep in your car. I don't know, but I just been killed because we need to wait 48 hours. If I can stay alive 48 hours after he's been killed, he can come back in the game in these rules." So I was like, "Oh shoot." So I had just parked in my parking space, and I had to get from my car to the front door, and I saw it, and I had my keys ready. And he said, "The person looking for you today is Corinne, because every time you kill someone, you get their next kill. You're gonna get handed the card of this is who you have to kill next."
It's like It Follows.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, kinda like It Follows, yeah.
Mhm.
So, he's like, "Corinne is after you and her partner," and I was like, "Oh, shit, do they know where I live?" And I knew they knew where I lived. So, because it's the, small Midwest college, not this sprawling place, like,
Mhm.
even though I was off campus. So I was like, "Okay, I was looking everywhere, it was dark, there were some street lights, so it's just like the movies, like, the street lights flickering, I was like,
I
"Shit,
do not like
gotta."
this game.
I
I
know.
would not. I would like let myself be killed immediately because
I
I
was
could
so
not take the stress.
when the game started, one of my roommates is Maria, who you met. She was a teacher, so she wasn't in the game. But my other roommate was my friend Heather, and she's in the dance department, so she didn't play that year. But she knew everybody who would be after me. So I was like, soon as this game starts, no one is allowed in this apartment because if you let them in your home, they can kill you.
Oh, damn.
So I was like, no one from theater or dance can come in this apartment. If you need to meet them, you got to go somewhere else and meet up with them. I don't know what to tell you. And I found like different routes to get to class. So anyway, back to this part. So I'm in the car and I'm ready. I have my keys ready. I was like, I can make this. I can totally make this. I get out of the car and I'm sneaking, and then I start sprinting toward the door, and I hear footsteps behind me.
No,
And
no.
it's an old fashioned lock. I mean, you just got to get in there and like turn it, and it gets stuck sometimes. So I'm panicking. I'm like, no, 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 and she got
You gotta
me.
like jiggle it, turn the handle 3 times to the right, then to the left, and
Yeah.
oh no,
I
do
was
not like
so
that.
upset. She got me. I had to hand over who I had to kill next, and I had to call Jason when I got outside. I was like, dude, I'm so sorry.
Like, I tried to warn you.
I tried. He's like, I told you to. I was like, I'm not going to sleep in my car. I'm just not going to do it. I just had to get inside. It was really close. He's like,
That's
so
funny.
he was just so disappointed because our first kill was epic. We did a drive-by where he tucked and rolled out of my car as I was moving. Oh, I wish it had gotten caught on
That
camera. I was like,
sounds
man,
that
that was
sounds fun,
badass.
honestly.
It was so fun.
I mean, my
Every
kids
year.
and I did the little thing one time where we were just playing, and it was like, okay, one person had the keys, you locked the door, and then the other person had to like slow Michael Myers walk up behind you and try to reach you before you could get the key.
I've
And
never heard of this.
there's something about it, just knowing there's like somebody behind you where you're fumbling and you're like,
Yeah.
I do this every day. Like, why all of a sudden can I not unlock my door in a timely
know.
manner?
There's a chance that had he not told me, I might have just been, I don't know, I probably would have walked, so I would have been killed anyway. But I
True.
feel I wouldn't have
Panic.
panicked.
Yeah, the panic
Yeah.
sets in and you lose.
If I heard her
motor
running
skills.
behind me, oh man, it's like you could hear the footsteps. Like she
It
got
sounds
me. I know.
terrifying, actually.
It does sound very scary. I don't think I could live my life in that kind of
See,
fear.
I might turn around and punch her in the face accidentally and get in trouble or something. So I don't know.
Oh man.
Yeah, I never heard about anybody getting punched. There was a lot of great moves to get people out of their house. One of my friends got killed when the person after her hired a pizza delivery person. She got her a pizza and then had them go to the house. And then he's like, "I'm so sorry, I just hit your car." So she ran out and they were hiding in the bushes.
That's
She and her car hadn't been
diabolical.
hit.
That is diabolical. Wow.
Yeah, there were
Wow.
some,
So what's
some good moves.
in the end, whoever's left standing, is it just like bragging right?
No, you win a lot of money because it's a $10 per person buy-in, and it's hundreds of people playing.
Okay.
And so
well,
with you and a partner. So if you can, like the people who are really good at it do some wild things. Like one guy hid in the bed of the person you need to kill's truck, didn't get out in time, rode all the way to Indianapolis, so like an hour and a half
Stop.
away, killed him when he got out of his truck in Indy. He thought he was safe in like, 20 towns over or whatever, and then had to ask for a ride back to campus when the guy was done with it.
That's
Yeah.
so funny.
They did some
Oh,
crazy
man.
moves, but yeah, you win a lot of money. Probably maybe probably a couple thousand at the end of it if you
Nice.
can make it. Yeah.
Wow. All
I
right.
would
Well,
play
with
that
that as
now.
a motivating factor, maybe I would be
We
able
should
to
start that
survive.
up here. Like,
Yeah.
get
I don't know how you do it there. It's easier on like in a school. Oh yes, a school
Yeah.
could. It's easier
you
in a
can't-
school where it's contained because then you had the rules. Like in high school, you couldn't kill them on campus and in college on campus between this hour and this hour, or no classrooms because our teachers would get pissed. Like no shooting each other in the hallways.
Right.
They'd get so mad.
I've seen it on TikTok. I don't know where the
Yeah.
kids are, but they're always posting like their assassin kills.
That's cool.
Yeah, because you have to have like a game. There's always like in high school one person who gets handed down being the leader, and then they give you your each person their assignments each night, or like who you're supposed to kill, and then you just follow from there. Get
No,
the
that's
name.
fun. I think I
Yeah.
would enjoy that.
It's fun, but it would be hard to do like community because you have to know everyone, and you have to learn people's schedules. So you couldn't just like community really couldn't do it. You don't know every single person, but in schools you could. That's how.
Hear me out. A horror movie. The premise is it's the fun and jovial game,
Mhm.
the annual game starting, but there's someone in there actually killing people. And then
I
you got to
love
figure
that.
out who it is among the people in the film.
That
would be
sounds like
kinda
a fun one. How has that not been made yet? Because
I don't know.
this is an old game that people play
Yeah.
everywhere.
The theater kids would love it, I feel like.
Oh
Make it
yeah.
really, make the kills fun. Like, add some comedy and some theatrics to it. Maybe a musical number somewhere in there. I don't know, but
Yeah, that's what I did because it was only the theater and dance department that did it each year. Everybody got used to it. Like when you had if you lived or roomed with or had other classes with theater kids,
they
the
knew
other
to expect
departments.
it.
But
Yeah.
we were the only nuts doing it.
That's
Like the
fun.
teacher,
No, that's fun.
the math, any other department was not doing this mess.
I just
It was
picture being like caught in the crossfire. Like,
oh yeah, people
you're
got
just trying
caught.
to
Yeah.
study and
Just trying to get across campus and people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great. How
yeah,
fun.
that is fun.
Well, thank you for sharing that story because I enjoyed it actually very much.
yeah. This is a good one. And I really liked
We
the
have
so I
2 episodes left. Is
we
that
have
it?
2 left, and I think your next one is the Tulsa one, if I remember. So if you wanna do any history on that, because I think
Okay.
yours covers the Tulsa riot.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I will
because the
definitely.
previous episode did reference that with the
Mhm.
fire and stuff.
Yeah, they've referenced Tulsa a little bit here and there, and now we're actually gonna see it in
Mm.
Honestly,
episode
I'm
7.
embarrassed in many cases about my ignorance on a lot of the history and things that might come up that I'm just don't even know that it's a reference to something.
Mhm.
So I am. Did I tell you this already? I'm listening to a book
Uh-huh.
on Spotify now. It's called "The Black as Fuck History: The Unwhitewashed Story of
Oh.
America,"
Oh, that's
and
Oh, I bet
interesting.
that'd be good.
yeah, it's really interesting because it goes through all of these from basically the beginning of history until very recently, and it kind of takes it from that perspective of what really happened and what weren't we taught in school. And
Mhm.
I'm learning things that I never even knew existed or happened. So
Oh, I will have to, look that one up. And honestly, I didn't know until I had heard about the Tulsa Massacre. I didn't really know much of what it was until Lovecraft Country, and I looked into it
mhm.
more. And then, what's that show? The one comic show that I had you watch that you liked, and you didn't realize it was a comic till it was too late. DC Comics, good lord.
Oh, oh yeah,
You know what I'm talking about? Because they reference it there
the
too.
one that's my image on Mac.
Mhm. I just can't, yeah, with Regina King, I can't think of the name.
Watchmen.
The
Watchmen.
Watchmen, yeah, until the HBO The Watchmen, they also reference it. So that's kind of how I learned more about it was after Lovecraft Country and reading about more about it.
I think it's really crazy and cool how there's so much like Black history in this show, specifically because Lovecraft was such like a racist
Racist.
person.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's almost like a big fuck you to him, and I
Yeah, I
love
love it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do too. I just recently started learning about the history of Central Park even. There's just so many things
Mhm.
that were where
Of the Black
black people
community.
started communities and tried to just do their own effing thing, like
Mhm.
minding their own fucking business, and people just couldn't handle it and had to take
Mhm.
it away and burn
Mhm.
it down, and it's just mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, we'll learn more about that because I some of our bonus episodes I'm working on, one of them is on Lake Lanier, and that's kind of how the haunting of Lake Lanier in Georgia. So, and that is a story like that, very close to Central
I
Park
won't go
story.
near it.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
the
I
one
won't go
that
on Lake Lanier.
I've
It
that
heard the
kills.
always
lore
has
of Lake Lanier.
so
Yeah.
many drownings and stuff every
Yes.
year.
It
Mhm.
kills several people every year, and they just nobody can figure out why. They just go in and do not come out.
Why do
Mhm.
people keep going?
I don't know.
Either.
I don't
I'll pass
know.
on that one, but
Yeah.
thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, thanks guys for listening, and we'll be back next week.
Yep. This was a
Alright.
Awesome.
good one. All right.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. For more information about our episodes, follow us on Instagram at Fear and Wine Pod. And if you have a fun discussion question that you'd like for us to answer on the podcast, send it to us at fearandwinepod@gmail.com.